Hey, greetings everyone. Welcome Dorsey's Resource. I wanted this video to be an open forum Q&A discussion. I want to do more of these during the day. So I still didn't want you guys to miss out. For those of you all who are going to come in, this video is going to be about just whatever topics are on your mind. I want to try to address any type of questions you guys might have. I'm going to do some maybe down the line on specific topics, like with many I received in the past, dealing with questions about the black card, the reset, etc. Whatever is on you guys' mind. So this is pretty much open forum discussion. But first, before we get started, this video is going to be for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual person to please do his or her own homework and research into the material being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is recommended that you please do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my thoughts and opinions. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now let's go. Some of the topics, some things have been on my mind. I want to do more of these because I get a lot of questions from a lot of people. And what I've done with a lot of my previous videos in the comment section, I have my settings set up where I have to approve all comments for a lot of the majority of my newer videos. Some of my other videos, earlier ones, I disabled them because things were getting out of hand with too many trolls. And I wanted to have some structure because there's a saying, if you don't have structure, you don't have stability. I also wanted you guys, if you had questions about my political views or what are my beliefs, because I study in the redemption movement, I want to say I'm not an anarchist. I still believe in government. I believe in structure because I think you in order to have stability, you need structure. If you study history, you go back years ago, people had to do things to earn a living. Farmers competed against other farmers growing food and the agriculture. And then governments came in sometimes and wanted taxes or profits from those farmers or individuals or whatnot. I'm just going back in history to show you guys that we still have to have structure. And you guys had questions maybe about Trump. I did a video previously giving my opinions about Trump and Hillary. And there's some things brought up, of course, being African American. I really didn't get into discussing identity politics, but because there's the ruling class elite has an agenda, and there really is an Illuminati, and there is a connection to the banking system. And this is important, contrary to popular belief with individuals out there may not believe. Okay, first I see somebody jumped in the chat, says, "Hey, Dorsey, what's up? Been a long time. So can we still get the black card, and how can we do that?" That's a good question. Uh, you know what? Dealing with the black card, I discovered I was invited to a private community through this app called Discord. I won't go into it in depth right now, but kind of be maybe discreet in this particular video with how I explain. But it provides credibility. In case you guys are wondering, this is reputable information. I'm not making this up. But in my opinion, as far as the black card, it still may be possible. I'm not in the loop. The application was on the Federal Reserve's website, but keep in mind that there's several different types of black cards. And people think of black cards. You can have your at the lower class banks out here, whatever place you bank with, whether it's Bank of America, SunTrust, Huntington, Citizens Bank, or Chase. They have cards you can get where you can opt to have like your regular Visa or MasterCard that's linked to your bank account. You could have it as the color of black. So people get confused by that when they talk about black card. You also have American Express has a black card for business owners or people that have like a high net worth, from what I understand, or whatnot. So there's this whole mystique and mystery behind the black card. Now there was a private version too that dealt with like your exemption behind the scenes or whatnot. So to kind of give you guys an idea, you may be aware. Hey, how you doing, DeCarla? Greetings. Good to see you again in the chat. Once again, in case any of you guys are joining me or new, if you have any questions, feel free to chime into the chat. This is going to be open forum, open discussion. So far, you guys have any questions that I can answer? Hopefully, I'll do my level best this short time that I'm here, that I just wanted to go live. And I want to do more of these to try to give you guys some insight. And it could be politics. It could be dealing with the reset, the GCR, that stands for Global Currency Reset, whatever's on your mind. Any previous videos I've done. How you doing? Greetings, Jordan, Evelo, shalom, brother. Shalom as well. Greetings to you. So whatever, it's kind of this like a freestyle, right off the top of the head. I'm going to go over some things until, I see you guys. You can put your questions in the chat section if there's something that you want to know about, or you're inquiring or curious about. And like I said, it's open forum. So, this is how we can answer. I can try to go over multiple topics at once or multiple subjects. But once again, dealing with the okay, I see somebody, JB says, yeah, I bought some Zimbabwe notes lately. Any thoughts? On the Zim, I just heard, I know originally they said it was supposed to be in like the second basket, but it got moved to the first basket. That there was dealing with this RV, there was a set of currencies that are supposed to revalue. Then after that, they had planned, the people who headed all of this up behind the scenes, some down the line, their plan was to have a second group of currencies that were going to go through a revaluation. So some of the currencies that were supposed to be like after the first RV the second RV, were included with the first revaluation. So that's what I heard. The Zim is private. Two is more so, in my opinion, from what I heard thus far. I know a lot of people out there don't believe that is real. There's some people, because I know a guy that bought some at a coin show. I actually saw some of the notes myself at a coin show. But keep in mind that on the private sector, high level, that basically the elites or ruling class of people that are privy to the information in the private sector have mechanisms set up to trade these currencies and do various things. When you get into learning about registered securities and things like that, I had a friend of mine who was a stockbroker some years ago, and he gave me some insight. He didn't know about the sovereign movement at the time. I wired him up on that. He used to be a loan officer where he had a Series 7 and Series 63 license many years ago. He was working for a company out of Michigan, Genesis Financial. I think that was the name at the time, but there was other ones he worked for, had good experience. And he was breaking down to myself how the private sector worked with these bonds and securities, but they keep this information very discreet. I think some years back when these elites recruited us, they should have had spent more time going over that type of information, similar to the cryptocurrencies, what they do behind the scenes with the buyer and seller relationship, how they pledge securities as collateral. When you have bonds or promissory notes, and there's a way to exchange or pull the funds from the private into the public. There's mechanisms for that set up. But however, I don't have all of the pieces to those dots connected. Some stuff is high level. I see DeCarla has another question in the chat. I saw on the DTC site they have sponsors listed for the black card. It's been a little while ago. Interesting. Sponsors for the black card. I'm not sure. I did hear that you needed sponsors for the DTC. I wasn't sure about for the Federal Reserve's black card if you needed sponsors. I wouldn't be surprised, because some years back we were depending on, when we were receiving the education that from these individuals that came out from the private sector that were providing the education about our exemption account, and these things did mention they would only give out certain information. You had to do like a signature card, and this was the last part of the application that they kept very private. from a lot of individuals being necessarily aware of at the time. So I'm not sure. I haven't been on the DTC's website in a while. Keep in mind, at that time, I was relying on their tutelage when I attended these events. Many people have asked me in my previous videos, did I get access to the black card? I did receive it. They asked me, did I receive any money from the specific one I had was through, from what I understand, I think it was through a sub account. I don't know for sure because I was under their tutelage. I was still learning at the time. And then they left us hanging when they disappeared on us because they said it was individuals out there who were being irresponsible. They were being flamboyant with their actions. They were being too public. Because keep in mind, this is to confirm they don't want people in the general public, from I think, in my opinion, to necessarily know about this information. That's why things last year with the TDA accounts, when it went viral, and more people were trying to do it, they said we got to shut it down. I heard that the FBI put pressure on PayPal to stop, because I did see where some content creators had showed evidence where they had their PayPal accounts linked to the Federal Reserve accounts, but there was a certain way you had to do it. I actually had the video evidence. So for those out there, there's this woman on YouTube named Virgo Triad that's saying it's a lie. I understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, everything is not a scam. There are things, just because it can't necessarily be proven doesn't mean that it's not true. You have to do deep research in this type of information. It's encrypted. It's not a silver bullet. This is not a one size fits all. And I just remembered, I recommend watch the movie National Treasure with the actor Nicolas Cage. Watch part 1 and 2. This information is very similar to National Treasure with Nicolas Cage, where you have to be intelligent. You have to connect the dots and the pieces. And I was going to do another video to actually go over my credentials and things of that sort. I see JB in the chat says, I also heard people were making deposits with their Treasury Direct accounts to 501c3 charities with no reversals. Any thoughts, concerns with opening a charity of your own for accepting donations? I think it's a great idea, but as someone was reminding me recently with a meeting that I had, but first I want to address, I did hear about that. Credit to Harvey Dent on his channel. I did notice that he gave an update with that information. And it does make sense from some things that I've observed at the time. But you have to keep in mind, 501c3, that's the actual, this is not financial advice too. I did give a disclaimer earlier, but do your research. Look up 501c3 and the IRS tax code and the connection to churches. But just go on Yahoo or Google search engine and type up a manual search or change the words around, information about the 501c3 connection to how it's a control mechanism, because certain institutions or religious institutions that are 501c3 have certain rules they have to follow. So it allows the government or deep state operatives that don't have good intentions to control those organizations from actually helping. And someone just told me, I won't say who, I was in a private meeting. I stay busy on one of my off days. This past Monday was sharing with me, and I forgot about it, that actually says somewhere in there that churches, pastors cannot help their congregation, or some type of verbiage in there, but it has to go towards causes for the government. And I would have to probably do a whole nother video on that, because the ruling class elite, the people in the private sector, and I don't think that all rich people are evil, don't get me wrong, but however, there's a lot of deception that goes on with philanthropy and how they're disguising who they're helping out with these different organizations. That's used as a front. If you study history, this is why it's important to study the Illuminati stuff connected to the banking stuff, because years ago, the Rockefeller family, I found out from watching the documentary, one of the members, they went to the IRS many years ago and made it like a deal with them that if you don't tax us heavily, they created loopholes for them to create charities and stuff so they wouldn't get taxed heavily. So that was a loophole created years ago. And then Pastor Lindsey Williams, look up his videos. He talked about how the elite set up back in the late 1800s. They have something called joint stock trust. Look up the video where Pastor Lindsey Williams is talking about joint stock trust. It's an older video. It should still be on YouTube. You can watch it for free. Someone in my camp privately shared it with me. I didn't know about it. This is why it's important to network and speak to different people in your groups and have meetings, because one person can put 1,000 to flight, as it said, but two or more people, two or more heads together can increase the information when you like a meeting of the minds. And this person shared this video, and I watched it. And these joint stock trusts were specific types of trusts for the elites that they have. I forget specifically what they involve, but they've been grandfathered in. But if anybody else tries to use them, they can get in trouble. There's laws and stuff they put in place. They actually did things like this years ago to try to trap people up. And I feel like it's deceptive. That's where something needs to be done, as well. I believe in balance as well. I'm going to go back to the chat real quick. Greg Clark, Islam, sis, okay, I see. Greg Clark, okay, peace, family, peace to you in the chat. Jordan Evelyn, 501c3 church is now to be forced to pay taxes. Interesting. I think I heard something about that. And that could be a result because the ruling class elite that's pushing this LGBT, this homosexual culture. And I'm not saying, in my opinion, that's how you are. I've said in some older videos I had to remove because I had my work uniform in, where I talked about some of this stuff that's being used to break down the family structure. But I'm not going to micromanage what a person does in their private business. That's their business. However, understand there's an agenda being pushed by the elites, and the churches could have been punished because many churches and ministers were speaking out against the push for the ruling class to bring in the LGBT, this homosexual culture, to break apart the family structure. So that was a way to punish them by, if that is true, if churches are being forced to pay taxes now and benefits being taken away. And that was during Obama's administration as well, because the ruling class wants to change the structure here in America. And it's being used, but this is not against people. If that's how you are, if you're a homosexual, a lesbian, whatever, that's your own business. But I'm just mentioning this, for example, to demonstrate that the ruling class basically wants to, these very powerful elites behind the scenes that many of them run the banking system, whatnot, want to push an ulterior motive and agenda. And that could have been one of the reasons why they punished the churches. That I did hear something about that, even with the religious freedoms and stuff, that when Trump came in, he was trying to do some things to change it, because I fear there needs to be a two-way street as well. Actually, so wow. So the chat just went out. Okay, well, I don't know if I noticed the chat just went out okay for a minute. I don't know what caused that right there. I don't know if that was my internet connection, but as I was flowing, but to continue, someone else put in the chat, Greg Clark, hell equals debtor prisons, Greg Clark, tithe equal Roman tax. Yes, that is connected to all of this. As they say, render unto to Caesar what is due to Caesar. But the churches are public. And then other institutions that are 501c3, keep in mind that's public, that churches and institutions really want to be 508. When I was in the Discord app, there was one night we had a discussion about that, and there were some individuals in there that had never heard about the 508 corporation souls. That's what many institutions or churches should be up under. They would have the pastors or leaders that sincerely care about helping people would not have to abide by some of these rules. They would have greater loopholes, because like I said earlier, it's a mechanism that was done by the cabal, not just the ruling class elite, but there's a criminal cabal that is doing things, as I was mentioning earlier. They're using identity politics and things to circumvent the structure that was in place that we have, and try to force institutions to push certain types of agendas. And 501c3 is a structure used for that. The benefit is a benefit privilege as well that will give you tax write-offs, and you'll have more people to assist you because the majority of people are brainwashed in the public through the public food system or school system. And of course, that's why they're pushing Common Core. So they're using this as a strategy to also control and oppress mass groups of people, but it's under the disguise through charity that we're going to help you out through philanthropy. But at the same time, you know that the money doesn't always get to where it's supposed to go. Like, look at the Clinton Foundation, what happened with Haiti, how a lot of the money was stolen, over 90% of it. Trump and Hillary talked about it in one of the debates they had where Trump was accusing Hillary, said no, over only 5%, I think, maybe went towards Haiti, whatnot. Even Alex Jones reported on this. This is very accurate information. You know, I was speaking with some people. There were even some Haitians protesting against the Clintons before the election about that money that was stolen. And so just keep in mind, that's just an example, but this is used in other regards. Even when Hurricane Harvey happened last year, there were people mentioning about be careful donating to the Red Cross, because some of the money that was being used to get some of the items, clothes and stuff, people were reporting by the Red Cross was throwing out stuff that could have gone to other people, because they have these crazy rules in place. Just like when I used to work for a fast food place years ago, that they couldn't, we had to throw out the food that we didn't sell. I used to work for Boston Market in Columbus, Ohio, and the food that was left over, you know, we would take it home. But I think at the time the employees were not supposed to eat, but the managers, you know, they would allow us to have it anyway, because, you know, why, you know, throw out, you know, food that's still good that was left, like whole chickens and stuff, because, you know, they have rules where you can't resell it. But think of a 501c3s as similar to that, in a way, similar to where these control mechanisms are in place where they want to control us. I'm going to go back to the chat again. It says, public is exactly what it means, operating in the public. Don't businesses in the open, as we do know, or now as U.S. citizens, private oppressing through trust and other things. Yeah, it's a covert mechanism they're using. Definitely, you're on point, DeCarla. It's a form of oppressing people. And I would even add, this is a form of economic terrorism. It's a form of financial terrorism. But especially those of us that are in the know, I feel like personally, they have enough slaves as it is within the system. But those of us who are trying to become free, you know, especially when those elites recruited us at that event I attended some years ago. And I'm not saying the name in this particular video. Some of you already know who I'm talking about in the name of that event. But that was just dirty, because they may had us sign non-disclosure agreements, and we didn't even get paid anything. At least with Ginger Daniels' situation, she got paid, you know, so we should have got something to keep our mouths shut. And I feel that was dirty, but it is a form of control. It's a form of financial oppression, because these wealthy or individuals in the private sector already have access to their wealth. They're sleeping good. Their children, they're eating good at night, and they're doing well, while many of us we were still being obedient. We weren't trying to cause disruption. They should have allowed us to access the money and kept their word. So this is why people don't believe some of these individuals high up in the private sector are not how can I say, they don't have full integrity as they necessarily come off, but they disguise it through philanthropy, you know, through charity work. That if you bring up things, and nobody's perfect. I'm not trying to go after, you know, anyone in particular. I'm just using this as an example. This is like a control mechanism they keep in place, because once the spotlight is shined upon them, if they've been caught with their hand inside the cookie jar, been caught red-handed, then they say, well, I gave to many of these organizations, or I was a philanthropist. And then some of them throw identity politics in, where, you know, certain individual music artists, for example, mentioned he did a lot for Black causes or whatnot. That may be the case, but sometimes the crimes of what they did far outweigh the good work they've done. So yeah, and if you're into spirituality and things, you should balance it out. You know, not saying there's an excuse to be corrupt, but, you know, we need more good people in the world, wealthy people who really care, that are genuine. that are not just doing things to get tax write-offs, but genuinely care about people and care about helping people. So this is just something to keep in mind. But I would have to do another video and maybe even take some notes, because it can get in depth with the way, because people are trained in the public to look up to people, famous people, certain individuals that are donating money to organizations that hurt us, like Monsanto and other things, will poison our food supply or putting chemicals in the water or the air. Or look at what happened with Flint, Michigan. And this is not a Democrat or Republican thing, even though Flint is predominantly a Democratic controlled city, believe it or not. They had, I'm not trying to just use this as an example, but people in the private sector that may control these corporations and stuff, there's a lot of things that are not being said. So just keep in mind, use your third eye to really evaluate, who's sincere and who's not, out here. When some entities are saying they're giving money to charity or for vaccines, if with vaccinations and stuff can do with, like, what's her name? Dr. Rima Label, who appeared in an episode of when Jesse Ventura's show used to be on True TV, called Conspiracy Theory. Her name was Dr. Rima Label. There was an episode and she talked about, she worked for someone who I think was the head of a State Department, because Dr. Rima Label, she's an actual medical doctor, but she's worked with people in the private sector, because some of them actually have their own private medical staff. A friend of mine just confirmed, he drives for Lyft or whatever, and he met someone from that was in the military and confirmed that this person knows someone who was like a private medical staff for the royal family. So they have their own, private people. That's a whole nother topic within itself, too. If I was to touch on that, how private sector people are protected by the military. Remember, they have a head start and advantage too. Check out Lindsey Williams' video called Secrets of the Elite. Should still be on YouTube. You can watch it for free, and it will confirm what I'm going over. It'll provide credibility, and what I'm mentioning is reputable information, that they have a head start where many of these elites were taught by their parents. They were sent to private schools by invitation only. Some of the people that they initiate, or politicians that they use as underlings, as spies, to report back to them what their agenda is, they'll send them to private seminars by invitation only, or they'll groom when they're younger, maybe teenagers even. They can initiate you and groom you and send you to a private university or private seminar as well. They have private seminars, not just private schools, by invitation only, and they're taught by their parents. So this is an advantage that they have. They use trust, private banking trusts that are not necessarily just statutory in the public. And they also have firms where they already have money to hire the very best lawyers, because there was a movie producer some years ago. I'm going to get ready to shut it down. But there was a movie producer by the name of Aaron Russo who came out with a documentary called Freedom to Fascism. This is declassified. This is a fact. He mentioned he met Nick Rockefeller or whatnot. Nick Rockefeller revealed these things to him and told him, some things, because he was trying to recruit him at the time, because Aaron Russo was running for governor. That's another thing they do when they want to recruit you. They bring you on in the inside and they reveal some of these things to you. But it was Nick Rockefeller. He still had a lawyer, because many people thought because they're super wealthy, they're like up there with the Rothschilds, that they don't use lawyers at all. But some of them, I was explaining to some people, I guess they still do, but they already have their entities and trust and stuff set up. So it's easier for them to study and learn this information. They don't have to catch hell that those of us who have to depend on a 9-to-5 job that are trying to study to learn this information. This is why that seminar that I attended some years ago, when we were supposed to be funded with the black card, and they said that we weren't, because it was people who kept messing up, that it was people going on shopping sprees with the card through the Federal Reserve, not the one through American Express or the other types of black cards, but the one through the Federal Reserve. So I hear that Pastor Tony King just decided to cut it off because he didn't want to get in trouble or keep getting in trouble with the Federal Reserve and the DTC, which works with them, or whatever, how it was set up. So to kind of give you guys more insight, this is information was told. It's even on the audio. There, I hear allegedly there was one guy, he was buying up cars and he was reselling them, and he got caught or got in trouble, and they said he was going to have to pay that money back to the Federal Reserve. I don't know how he was going to pay that back because it was coming out of his private exemption account or whatever. Somehow it's connected where you can spend quite a bit per day. I remember the amount, but I'm not going to say. Some things I just, keep private more so I can do other chats, but just to kind of give you guys some insight. So there's a lot of things that's been declassified. It's public information, was put in documentaries I'm giving you. You can look up, watch for free on YouTube. Watch Freedom to Fascism by Aaron Russo. America, Freedom to Fascism, the name of the documentary. Also check out College Conspiracy. That's a good documentary. Money Masters, Monopoly Men. Watch the mainstream movies came out at the theaters. National Treasure with the actor Nicolas Cage, part 1 and 2. A lot of the information, the redemption movement is real, contrary to popular belief. Virgo Triad, a lot of stuff she's mentioned. I'm giving you credible information. I don't know who she is. I can't confirm if she's a government agent. I've heard that, but I don't know. That's what, when I was on the private Discord app, that's what Gabriel mentioned, or Gab, on there. He said he had it confirmed, but I don't know specifically. But a lot of the stuff, I get where she's coming from as far as like trying to be like a watchdog group. But I used to work for a consumer advocacy agency where they would assist people that can't get help from certain regards, that are like stuck in the middle between the public and private sector, where there's certain entities not on the public to assist people that are being preyed upon on the public by predatory lenders and other things of that nature. Like they're not like vigilante groups, but the proper term is consumer advocates. Like Snoops.com and Fact Check are like a consumer advocacy groups, allegedly to filter who's giving real news between fake news, supposed to be. But keep in mind, there's big donors behind the scenes that they keep private, whatever. Here, George Soros is connected to heavily, so they can manipulate that as well. So I encourage everyone. That's why I give a disclaimer. Don't take my word for what I'm saying, to show how confident I am and how credible my information is, factual and reputable. Just look. So I encourage everyone, please look this information up yourself and do your own homework. Now, with that said, I want to get ready to end things right here. Okay, the chat went away for a second. I saw Money Boy Films. Big shout out to Money Boy in the building. The Carla, this is not something someone can give you in a chat. Laugh out loud. It takes a lot of studying. Yes, you are correct. You're on point. Greg Cart, Constitution and its treaties and the supreme law of the land. Yes, sir. I'm aware. I got the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. American Constitution and your state constitution are very powerful tools. Yes, they are. There are ways to access all of this, but it starts with your status of your nationality is not right. You hit a brick walls if you don't have mentors that know. Yes, you are correct. Study. And I'm going to end it right there. You are on point, DeCarla. Thank you, everyone, for joining me in the chat. Big shout out to you, Greg Clark, Money Boy in the building. Camilla Barnes, good evening. I didn't see you at first. Big shout out to you, JB. I missed your question about the passport. I have to come back on you on that. I heard they tripped you up by asking for your SSN number. Yeah, they changed some things with the passport, because when things go too viral, too many people doing stuff, that's why they only want so many people doing this. That's why I encourage everyone out there, be responsible. I get where Virgo Triad is coming from, that you do have people out there that are irresponsible, but that doesn't exemplify everybody in the movement. I'm a responsible person. I still believe in structure, that you have to have structure. But remember, it's the contracts that you decide to enter into, whether you're on the public or private. There's certain rules, on both sides of the spectrum, whether it's public and private. And I talked about that in a previous video. Even spiritual laws, just like Morpheus said in the movie The Matrix, for example. Some rules can be broken, some rules can be bent. So just keep that in mind. Try to be responsible as much as you can. Study. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for joining me. Dorsey's Resource. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, deuces.